Yo, Scrawny with the skinny. One more time, we're back, Fantasyland. You know how it is. This is going to be a chiller video. It's pretty late local time. I've been thinking about fantasy throughout this weekend as I was up at the chalet with some buddies. And because it's kind of late and I'm tired, I'm just not flying off the handle, all right? I'm being real with you out the gate. This is going to be a nice, chill Fantasyland. But I have been thinking, because Gamers 8's a pretty crazy event. So let's get into it. First of all, playoffs Cologne. Paid off, went well. I went in on the G2 hype train, definitely paid off. You know, I was pretty timid with this draft though, because I made sure to include that Vitality and Heroic player in case I was wrong about G2. I wanted to try to, save face if I could, and that's why I finished top 14%, solid amount of points, but it's not some top 5% finish because I did still hedge my bets. So we look at the leaderboard. That gave me plus 12, I believe. Sitting pretty at fourth place. Maniacs pulled ahead. Machine had an incredible event. So now he's up in second place. Cool to see Machine up here, because if not, it would be, Maniac, P2, and myself. Pretty similar top three to last season, barring Lucy, who's having a hard time. Profs down there, but whatever. Long season. Standings don't matter at the moment. Gamers 8, okay? Gamers 8 is a crazy event. I'm actually quite surprised that Fantasy, if it wasn't for the prize pool and the teams, it's like this is the kind of format that can really throw a season of Fantasy into whack. So I've done my bracket already, doing this on Pickstop. This video is not sponsored by Pickstop, not this one, but I'm still using their website because it's a really good service in terms of kind of, painting together the bracket, painting the picture for the bracket. And so here we have it, all right? I think Heroic are going to be coming in with a lot to prove after their shortcomings in Cologne. And while I do still doubt that they'll have a super deep run, I have them getting to semifinals, beating out Falcons pretty easily. And I'm going to give Gamer Legion a game here just because they've been punching upwards, all right? I expect them to defeat Apex at the start of this bracket, but Heroic to the semifinals. In this second little set of teams, remember, this is single elimination, right? Lose a best of 3, you're out. Ruthless. Brutal format. Very cool, right? This is going to be super exciting to watch, or at least to keep eyes on the results. It's up to you how much you want to watch it, but it's being produced by ESL, so the production quality is going to be solid. It's got familiar faces on the broadcast. This is a solid tier 1 event. So Cloud9 versus Fnatic. I anticipate that this will be close again, as it was at the group stage of Cologne. But now they've got the full Cloud9 roster. I think that when we saw Cloud9 play in playoffs, to have your roster start on a quarterfinal stage in one of the biggest stadiums of the year, like that's so much pressure for Axile and for the Cloud9 project. And it's really a shame that we didn't get the C9, amazing departure as soon as this roster hit the ground, but I expect them to take off at this event a little bit better. I still think they'll fare well versus Fnatic, but I'm not writing off Fnatic at the moment. I thought that roster change was really weird, but they turned my head, so I'm anticipating this one to be close. Maybe Fnatic pull up the upset here, but Cloud9 should be fine. Ents are going to dispatch of Liquid, all right? I'm going to sell you on Ents now, because Ents have now managed to go back-to-back grand finals at 2 separate IEM events on each side of a player break. Okay, that in this era of Counter-Strike where inconsistency is the ruin of all, the fact that Ents have managed to go back-to-back grand finals at big events and again on each side of a player break. All right, how many teams fall off momentum-wise when it comes to those breaks? How many teams get this one-off deep run like a Mouse last year into a grand finals and then flop? Not Ents. And when Ents started in group stage, they had a difficult matchup versus 9. And we saw already, I think, this like digging deep, this resilience from Ents at the moment. I think Snappy is really coming into his own at a time where the likes of Kerrigan is struggling, where Hooksy, despite Cologne being an uptick, has been having some very bad events, where even Apex was starting to dabble back into that like suicidal play style where he's dying needlessly. I was a little disappointed in Apex up until the playoffs. In Cologne, dude, he was making some dumb mistakes again in group stage, playing as if he knew he would get carried through it, which he did. But Snappy specifically is calling really well, and he's getting this team deep in their events. Now, it banks on Sun Pius, absolutely. Okay, this guy played insanely up until the grand finals. Then he went absent. All right, whatever. If you're going to fall off, then that's one thing. And the inconsistencies of the other players on Ents still worry me a little bit, right? Nertz will have a bad map. Diha will have a bad map. Madden will have a bad map. But interchangeably, it feels like as any of them have an off day, the others pick up that slack. So I'm going big on Ents with this run. I'm going to say Ents make it to a third consecutive grand finals. I'm going to say VP actually upset FaZe. I'm writing off FaZe this event. I'm done with them. Unfortunately, I don't think this squad rolling up to Saudi Arabia to play a single best of 3 are going to be the most inspired or the most competitive team. And of all the upsets I could take in the round of 16, where I feel there's inevitably going to be 1 or 2, this is the one I am taking. I'm going to say VP hit the ground running. We haven't seen them at LAN so far this season. And, even though we know that Kickert is on the way out, I still think that they're operating well enough with him. G2 will open up versus 9 and win, and then they'll take down Virtus Pro in their following matchup, leading to a semifinal versus Vitality, who I think, just like Heroic, have a super easy opening game. MIBR are about to get gobbled up, and honestly, so are Furia. I was hoping that in Cologne I'd be impressed by Furia, but I'm not. Straight up struggle bus. And that scares me because this team has a lot of ground to make up. And we already criticized Art for maybe holding back K Serrato and Yuri in the peaks of their careers, the same way Nafany was doing so to Cloud9, etc. Well, man, Fallen, Art, they've got to figure out how this is going to work, and they've got to figure out how they're going to play better. I don't think it's going to happen here. I don't think 1 best of 3 is enough to change things. I think Na'Vi have shown me stark improvement since the beginning of the season. And Na'Vi could even give Vitality some problems in quarters. But again, I've got Vitality running it all the way through G2 this time. I'm not sure about this game. I think G2 Vitality are quite interchangeable. Actually, you know what? Let's change that. Let's say G2 go on to play Ents in Grand Finals again. And I have more faith in Ents being in the grand finals, not necessarily winning it. I have more faith in Ents being in the grand finals, and so I'll pick them as the winner. I think this side of the bracket will be great for them to run over top of Heroic, who have shown us, this weird new style they're working on. G2 Vitality, the biggest 50-50. Ents will close it in the grand finals. So I'm going big on Ents, and I'm thinking G2 Vitality with some improved moments from Heroic, Cloud9, and Na'Vi. All right, that's the general consensus. So let's draft. All right, you're here for the fantasy content. I got it, baby. We're talking Ents. Now, Ents right away, okay? 4th ranked team of the teams here, and 4th in the world at the moment. We actually have world number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 if you count FaZe, but yeah. So very competitive pool. And we're going to begin with Ents. Now, when it comes to Ents, like I said, Nertz, Madden, Diha, all very promising, all great in their roles, but all susceptible to having a day off or two. If you watch Cologne, I think on a mechanical level, you had to have been impressed by Sunpius. And so I'm going to tap into him. There was a few events last season as well that I think P2 benefited from picking Sunpius quite frequently. Them and the Movistar Riders, he's doing his thing, picking Spaniards. Well, I'm going to tap into that, okay? I think that Sunpius, even though the grand finals was a little sketchy, he's going to reset himself, and he is a showstopper, all right? This is the kind of guy who will take over servers, who will throw himself into the action. Sunpius plays like a main character, and he backs it up. All right. He backs it up so well that to me, he is a must-have Ents player. If you are going to bank on Ents whatsoever, screw the price tags of the others. I know 216K is nothing to scoff at, but I'm taking Sunpius. And with Sunpius, okay, we've got 4 players who I think all have their merits, but we need to tap into affordability because just in general, I feel like HLTV have put the prices up on everybody. Everybody's rating is starting to succeed, having farmed through groups and Cologne. So now everybody's price tag's getting back up to where I think it should be. And I'm going to grab Snappy. Okay, of all the in-game leaders that we have floating around right now, those struggling in-game leaders in the frag department, right? Apex, I told you, I saw some of that carelessness shine through again. Hooksy, constant uphill battle, but at least his team is looking ferocious, and so he's still a little more viable. Plus, he's the #1 picked player for this fantasy event. Kerrigan, avoid like the plague. I'm not even going to scroll any further. Nealon's not it. I'll tell you that. If you're trying to save money, if you think there's another Hasteka moment here, Nealon's not it, man. Do not do it. So we've got Sun Pius and we've got Snappy. I think that Snappy, in the grand finals, the one map Ents won was a powerful performance from Snappy. Carried them, in fact. Carried them on Anubis, which I will anticipate comes up in these series in their head-to-heads. We could see Anubis versus Cloud9. We could see Anubis versus 9. Excuse me, they don't start there. We could see it versus Liquid. We could see it versus Cloud9. We could see it versus Fnatic. We could, I would say not Heroic, but G2 in the grand finals. Whatever. Snappy's going to have a moment to shine on that map. These are my two Ents players who I anticipate taking the event. Now what? Right? This is really, where I bank in on. I'm going to get crazy. I'm just going to straight up level with you. I'm feeling crazy in this moment right now. My number one intuition draft is going in on G2. The inconsistencies of G2 is always, their downfall. And it feels foolish sometimes to pick G2 on the follow-up. But with Heroic right now, even though they have an easy side of the bracket versus Falcons and the winner of Apex or Gamer Legion, I then think they have to play Ents, and I then think they lose that. And that's assuming that they haven't lost it by the time they get to that Ents semifinal. Vitality, opening versus MIBR is just as easy as opening versus Falcons. And for that reason, the Vitality picks are tempting. I think somebody's going to farm rating there. It could very well be ZywOo, but Flamesy has just skyrocketed in price, understandably, and Spinks is still sitting where he has. The only appealing option here for me is Magisk. But I'm feeling like I want a superstar, okay? So I'm going to go back down to G2, who, thanks to JKS, as he always plays better in stadiums, looked good through playoffs. Hunter, great uptick. When both Kovac play well, you've got problems. But the kid paid off, and I'm going to tap into him again, dude. Monacy. I'm doing this crazy double op combination between Sun Pius and Monacy. I think there is a likelihood that these are two players well within the top 5 highest rated player at this event. And to afford that, you know what we got to do. Oh, I cringe, but I'm taking Hooksy. We're doing Sun Pius, Snappy, Monacy, Hooksy. Okay, big on Ents and G2. I said in the HLTV Fantasy Focus video that maybe I was going to pick players from 5 different teams, but there's just no real good affordability options in my mind. It feels like you have to take Snappy. You're stuck with one bronze player no matter what. And with all of these plus 200,000 prices, I'm just going to try to play the economy game. When we go back to the start of the year, Hampus at that incredible low price of blast groups allowed for me to take a good team and succeed. Hasteka was the play in Cologne in order to afford ZywOo and anybody else from G2. There have been moments so far in Fantasy this season where I've seen playing the economy certainly pay off, and I don't feel personally like Snappy is too much of a risk. Hooksy could definitely bank us big negative numbers, right? But Monacy and Sun Pius, that to me feels like enough to bring it back. So at the moment, it's 2-star oppers with their bottom fragging IGLs, but Snappy barely fits into that category. This is where I feel. What this leaves us with is an opportunity to tap into the easier runs of Heroic or Vitality. I still think those points are definitely worth something. I still want a little something from over there. Now, ZywOo, Flamesy, Spinks, way out of the price tags, right? We're working with Tesses, Jabby, and Magisk. Straight up, stats over the last month, Jabby's not looking too hot. You check out his events, Cologne was a big drop off for him. I said avoid him that event, and I'm going to continue to avoid him, so that's not an option. Tesses to Magisk head-to-head. So Tesses with a 1.11 at the blast groups to start the year, 1.03 to follow. Magisk, all right, basically the same damn thing. He is 0.01 less successful at groups, but then definitely had a better showing in Cologne than Tesses. And so just head-to-head, I'm leaning towards Magisk. And then I want to consider again the runs of each team. Yes, you could argue Heroic have an easier run than Vitality because it's not like they're playing Na'Vi or Furia in the second match as Vitality will. But I would argue that obviously right now Vitality are the more winning team. Heroic, I think, will do fine. I think they could absolutely mop the floor with Falcons. And if they do that, anybody who has the balls to pick Heroic players will be feasting. Okay, these are best of 3s. It's a lot of points. But if we get one of these crazy moments where Heroic do indeed show a bigger crack in their armor than ever and fall short, I just don't see that happening with Vitality. In fact, I had Vitality going into the grand finals over G2 up until I relooked at that bracket. So to me, it's like, who's in the conversation? Who can get me redeeming amounts of points, assuming I'm wrong about something else? Will Heroic surpass ENCE, or will Vitality surpass G2? Those are the questions I have to ask. And to me, it's more likely that Vitality surpass G2. I'm going to take Magisk. I'm going to lock this in. And we've got the worms. All right? The worms in the Magic world, Magic the Gathering, that is, exactly what you'd expect. Massive desert worms that will just destroy and consume. And I'm hoping that this is the moment that the two oppers destroy, so much so that I go flying up that leaderboard and can manage maybe a top 3. You know, if I can surpass one person above me, I'll take it. All right? I'll take it. Machine, I love you, brother. But that second place is looking nice. All right? Now, here's the alternative. I'll present you guys one quick alternative. I'm thinking Sunpius and Snappy yet again, but if you want to go heavier on Vitality than G2, you would have gone with Flamesy and Apex, right? This takes away the liability of Hooksy. I think Apex will play better. Again, he has shown us that, even though there's these weird maps where he was playing just carelessly in Cologne. I think that Apex will probably sharpen up for with what's on the line in Riyadh. Flamesy did have a struggle in the playoffs, but I don't think this will be similar in scale, and I think he'll be right at home. This is actually, to me, a very tempting team, all right? I'm going to tell you guys I'm 50-50 on the fence between the original Worms with Monacy, Hooksy, and Magisk, or you switch out the G2 praise into Vitality prediction, go for Flamesy into Apex, bring up the floor, and you still have enough to tap into what will be the easier run of Heroic. In fact, these 3 teams, or rather 3 players, are all going to be having pretty easy opposition for what you can assume to be at least their opening games and possibly their first 2. So this feels safer, despite Monacy being a god. This does feel safer. For me, it's all about Sunpius, and it's all about ENCE, though. So good luck, guys. Gamers 8 is going to be crazy. For sure, this is one of those events where I can expect something to go wrong. It's a tough one to predict. Appreciate you guys always watching. Peace and love. Catch y'all next time. Bye.